Who is the most feared person in any confrontation? Is it the one with the biggest muscles? The one who shouts the loudest? The one who dominates the room with noise and aggression? No. The most dangerous person is the one who remains completely silent. It sounds strange at first, almost counterintuitive. But this truth once changed the life of a legendary warrior. And if you truly understand it, it can change yours as well. His name was Miyamoto Musashi, one of the most formidable samurai in Japanese history. He fought more than 60 life and death duels, and he never lost a single one. In his time, defeat did not mean embarrassment or a second chance. It meant death. Yet Musashi's greatness had little to do with brute strength, speed, or even sword technique. His real advantage was something far more powerful: absolute mastery over his own mind. Musashi understood something most people never realize. A battle is often decided before it even begins. While his opponents were consumed by tension, anger, and fear, Musashi stood calm. Where others were mentally tearing themselves apart, he remained still, internally and externally. And that calm terrified his enemies. Because when a person cannot be emotionally shaken, they become unpredictable, and unpredictability is deeply unsettling. Now think about your own life. Someone raises their voice at you. Someone challenges you aggressively. Someone attacks you with words, in a meeting, at home, or online. What happens inside your body? Your muscles tighten. Your heart starts racing. Or a surge of anger rises before you even realize it. And suddenly, you're no longer choosing your response. You're reacting. This is the trap Musashi understood better than anyone. He knew that the moment you let emotions take control, you lose two things at once: control of the situation and control of yourself. That is why his first principle of winning any confrontation had nothing to do with strength or skill. It was about something much deeper: emotional distance. So what is emotional distance? It is not emotional suppression. It is not being cold or detached. It is the ability to step back from your emotions and observe them without becoming them. Musashi described it as watching a confrontation from above, like clouds moving across the sky. The anger is a cloud. The fear is a cloud. The tension is a cloud. You are the sky. The cloud appears, and it passes. Musashi did not deny his emotions, but he refused to identify with them. Most people say, "I'm angry," or worse, "I am my anger." And in that moment, emotion takes the steering wheel. It dictates words, actions, and decisions. Musashi chose a different language, and language shapes reality. Instead of saying, "I am angry," he would say, "I notice that I am feeling anger." A small shift, but that shift creates space. And inside that space lies your power of choice. When you separate yourself from the emotion, something remarkable happens. You regain clarity. You regain control. You regain freedom. This is not about denying what you feel. It is about refusing to be controlled by it. And this inner distance is the foundation of true strength. Because the person who can remain calm while everything around them is chaotic is the person who holds the real advantage. Inner silence gave Musashi stability, but silence alone was never his final weapon. Because Musashi understood a deeper truth: calm without awareness can become vulnerability. A quiet mind is powerful, yes, but a quiet mind that is prepared is unstoppable. Musashi knew that most people do not lose control because they are weak. They lose control because they are caught off guard. Surprise is the spark that ignites emotional chaos. When something unexpected happens, The body reacts before the mind can think. Breath shortens, muscles tighten, thoughts scatter. And in that instant, logic disappears. This is why Musashi developed his second principle, anticipatory awareness. Anticipatory awareness is the ability to sense what is coming before it arrives, not through prediction or guesswork, but through understanding human patterns. Because despite our complexity, humans behave in remarkably predictable ways under pressure. Anger wants dominance. Fear wants escape. Ego wants validation. Impatience wants speed. Musashi studied this relentlessly. Before any duel, he never rushed into battle. He observed. He watched how his opponents stood, how they spoke, how they reacted to minor frustrations. He noticed whether they were impulsive or calculated, rigid or flexible. Every detail mattered. To Musashi, the duel did not begin when swords crossed. It began the moment he understood the mind of his opponent. One of the most powerful examples of this was his legendary duel against Sasaki Kojiro. Kojiro was a master swordsman, feared across the land, but Musashi saw beyond the blade. He recognized Kojiro's pride, his need to be admired. He noticed his impatience, his inability to wait calmly, and he knew Kojiro relied heavily on the advantage of his unusually long sword. Musashi arrived late to the duel, not accidentally, not disrespectfully, but deliberately. He understood that waiting would disturb Kojiro's emotional balance, that irritation would creep in, that pride would turn into recklessness. And on his way to the duel, Musashi carved a wooden sword, slightly longer than Kojiro's steel blade. When the fight began, Kojiro was already emotionally compromised. Musashi did not overpower him physically. He outmaneuvered him psychologically. The battle was decided before the first strike. Now pause for a moment. This principle is not limited to ancient duels. Every day you enter confrontations with co-workers, family members, strangers, and even yourself. Most people step into these situations blindly. They hope for the best. They see how it goes. They trust emotion to guide them. And then they are surprised when things escalate. Musashi would call this carelessness. Anticipatory awareness begins with intentional pause. Before a difficult conversation, a tense meeting, or a sensitive message, stop. Just for a moment. Ask yourself, what emotional state is this person likely in right now? What do they truly want, beyond their words? What reactions are most likely to appear? These questions do something profound. They prepare your nervous system. When you anticipate a raised voice, it no longer shocks you. When you expect defensiveness, it no longer provokes you. You are not surprised, and therefore, you remain calm. This is not manipulation. It is self-regulation. You are not trying to control the other person. You are protecting your own clarity. This is the same method used by crisis negotiators, mediators, and experienced leaders. Before entering high-stakes conversations, they assess emotional patterns and behavioral history, not to dominate, but to remain grounded. One seasoned negotiator once said, "The person who is least surprised controls the room." Musashi understood this centuries ago. Anticipatory awareness also teaches you something else. Not every battle is worth entering. When you understand patterns, you begin to recognize traps. You see when someone wants a reaction, not resolution. You sense when ego, not truth, is driving the interaction. And sometimes, the most powerful move is disengagement. Musashi did not fight every challenge. He chose his battles with intention, because true strength is not constant confrontation. It is discernment. This awareness shifts something deep inside you. You stop taking things personally. You start seeing behavior as expression, not attack. Anger becomes information. Silence becomes strategy. Calm becomes leverage. And slowly, you realize something remarkable. Many conflicts lose their power the moment you understand them. But Musashi knew one final truth. Even with preparation, even with awareness, the body can still betray the mind. Because stress lives in the nervous system, not just in thought. That is why his next discipline focused not on thinking, but on breathing. Miyamoto Musashi understood something most people overlook. Even the sharpest mind can collapse if the body is overwhelmed. You can be calm. You can be prepared. You can see the situation clearly. And yet, in a single intense moment, your body can hijack everything. The heart accelerates. Breathing becomes shallow. Muscles tighten without permission. And suddenly, the clarity you built disappears. Musashi observed this again and again in combat. He noticed that long before a swordsman lost control of his technique, he lost control of his breath. Fear always showed itself first in breathing. So did anger. So did panic. And that observation changed everything. Musashi realized that breath is the doorway between the body and the mind. Thoughts can lie. Words can deceive. But breath never does. When breathing becomes chaotic, the nervous system enters survival mode. Reason fades. Impulse takes over. That is why Musashi did not treat breathing as a background function. He treated it as a discipline. In his training, Musashi practiced movement, balance, and strikes while maintaining slow, deliberate breathing. He trained his body to remain calm even when danger was close. Because he knew this truth. Whoever controls the breath controls the emotional state. Whoever controls the emotional state controls the outcome. This was not mysticism. It was applied psychology, centuries before science gave it a name. Modern neuroscience confirms exactly what Musashi discovered through experience. Slow, controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, a part of the body responsible for calm, focus, and recovery. It lowers cortisol. It stabilizes heart rhythm. It clears mental fog. In contrast, rapid, shallow breathing activates fight or flight mode. Stress hormones flood the body. Vision narrows. Judgment weakens. In other words, your breathing determines whether you act consciously or react instinctively. Musashi developed simple but powerful breathing ritual. Before decisive moments, he would take one conscious breath. Not many, just one. He inhaled slowly through the nose for 4 counts, held briefly, then exhaled through the mouth for 6 counts. That single breath created a pause, a gap between stimulus and response. And inside that gap lived freedom. You can use this exact same tool today. Before responding to a message that triggers you, before speaking in a tense meeting, before reacting in an argument, one breath, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. That breath reminds your body, I am not in danger. I am in control. Repeat it 2 or 3 times, and the effect deepens. This is not weakness. This is discipline. But Musashi did not stop at calm, because calm without direction is wasted potential. So his final principle was the most profound of all: purposeful action. Musashi believed that entering a conflict without a clear objective was the same as fighting blind. Most warriors of his time were driven by ego. They wanted to dominate. to prove superiority, to crush the opponent. Musashi wanted something else. He wanted alignment. He wrote that the warrior should not rush to strike, but remain focused on the greater aim. This clarity kept him from being dragged into emotional chaos. Now reflect on modern life. How many arguments start with a valid issue and then dissolve into accusations, old wounds, and resentment? How many conversations spiral out of control because no one remembers why they started talking in the first place? This happens when purpose disappears, when ego replaces intention. Musashi anchored himself before every confrontation. You must do the same. Before entering a difficult interaction, ask yourself, what is my real goal here? Not what do I want to say, not how do I want to win, but what outcome actually serves peace, clarity, or resolution. Your purpose must be simple and specific. I want to resolve this without causing more harm. I want to express myself without escalating. I want to protect my inner peace. This sentence becomes your anchor. When emotions rise, and they will, you return to that purpose. It guides your words. It filters your reactions. It prevents regret. Purpose turns emotion into energy, not destruction. And here is the paradox Musashi understood deeply. Purpose does not make you rigid. It makes you flexible. When you know what truly matters, you stop fighting unnecessary battles. You choose silence when silence serves. You choose action when action is needed. You choose withdrawal when engagement would only drain you. This is not avoidance. This is mastery. Musashi was not calm because he lacked emotion. He was calm because he had clarity. And clarity is the highest form of strength. When you combine all four principles, something extraordinary happens. Emotional distance gives you space. Anticipatory awareness gives you foresight. Strategic breathing gives you stability. Purposeful action gives you direction. Together, they create inner sovereignty. You stop being controlled by external chaos. You stop being dragged by every provocation. You stop reacting to every noise. You become centered. In a world addicted to outrage, calm becomes rare, and rarity creates power. The loudest voice is not the strongest. The angriest reaction is not the bravest. The strongest person in the room is the one who remains composed while others lose control. Musashi's legacy was never about violence. It was about self-mastery. He understood that the greatest battle is not against another person, but against the untrained mind. And once that battle is won, the external world begins to change. As you practice these principles, something subtle happens. Conflicts that once consumed you start to lose their grip. Arguments that once felt personal begin to feel distant. Provocations that once triggered reaction become opportunities for choice. Not because the world is calmer, but because you are. This is the quiet power Musashi discovered centuries ago. A power that does not shout. A power that does not rush. A power that does not seek validation. A power rooted in awareness. True mastery is not domination. It is alignment. Alignment between breath and body, between intention and action, between emotion and awareness. And when these align, you no longer merely face battles. You transcend them. Take a breath now. Slow, deliberate. Remember, the greatest strength is not force. It is control. And control begins within.